Hello everybody, Necromancy for Kids here again. Back to you again with the deck profile. This time I wanted to show you guys another fun deck that I've been playing around with for a while. And this one is a luck deck based entirely around cards that have a random effect or a coin flip or a die roll, something that's out of your control. This deck actually has a fair number of wins, surprisingly. Mostly probably because the opponents don't really know what these cards do, so they just kind of go along with it, and sometimes, of course, the deck doesn't end up working very well because you don't get the correct random chance, but regardless, it's really fun, and let's get on with the profile. To start the profile off with, we have a Barrel Dragon in the deck, level 7 machine, dark. Once per turn, you can target one monster your opponent controls, toss a coin 3 times, and destroy it if at least 2 of the results are heads. Interesting fact about this is that technically this is a 50% chance, as well as the effect of Blowback Dragon, which is a level 6 machine dark. With once per turn, you can target one card your opponent controls, toss a coin 3 times, and destroy that target. At least 2 are heads. Obviously, Blowback Dragon, a lot easier to summon, and it does have only 2300 versus 2600 attack, and it has 1000 less defense. But a lot of times in this deck, you're only going to be summoning this off of like from the grave or with some cards that we'll get into later on. Blowback Dragon has the better effect, being able to select any card as well, and I originally had this deck set up so that you could do fusions of these two, but I'll get to that at the end of the video. Then next up we have Jirai Gumo, level 4 insect with 2200 attack, 100 defense. When this card declares an attack, toss a coin and call it. Call it wrong, lose half your life points. So 50% chance to have no negative effect on it for a 2200 beater. That's pretty nice. It gets over a lot of stuff that isn't a boss monster. It even gets over Air Knight Parshath, but of course not Chaos Sorcerer. It's very good against aggro decks because usually their top level is 2000 attack, and this one has 2200. Obviously, the downside of losing half your life points can be really huge, especially at the start of the duel, but that just adds to the luck factor of the deck, of trying to hang on with just a small amount of life points left. Then next up, we have Sasuke Samurai number 4, level 4 Wind Warrior, with if this card battles a monster, toss a coin and call heads or tails before damage calculation. If you call it right, destroy the opponent's monster with this effect. So this does destroy monsters before they get their flip effects off. A lot of people don't realize that when I play against them with this card. As well, you do have a chance to destroy your opponent's BLS or Chaos Sorcerer or any boss monster when you attack into it. Especially nice when they end up putting it in defense. Then we have 2 copies of Roulette Barrel, level 4 machine with 1000 attack, 2000 defense. 2000 defense means it's going to wall pretty much everything that isn't your opponent's bosses. And its effect is once per turn, you can roll 6-sided die twice, choose one result, and destroy one monster on the field whose level is equal to that result. It's pretty good when they attack into this, and then you can roll that, although remember, if you end up only rolling 4s, then you have to pick 4, and if this is the only level 4 on the field, you have to destroy it with its effect. Then we have 2 copies of the Almighty Time Wizard. Once per turn, you can toss a coin and call it, and if you call it right, destroy all monsters your opponent controls. If you call it wrong, destroy as many monsters you control as possible, and if you do, take damage equal to half the total attack. Pretty much you only summon this card, and especially only use its effect when you absolutely have to, or if it's the only monster on your side of the field. Of course, this isn't going to be everyone's experience, but actually I've only called this wrong about 2 or 3 times out of maybe the 8 times that I've summoned it in games. And whenever I do call it wrong, I only end up losing 250 life points, because like I said, I only use it when it's the only monster on my field, or if I really absolutely have to use it. Then next up, we have 2 copies of Jowgen the Spiritualist. Level 3 light spellcaster with 200 attack, 1300 defense. You can discard 1 random card from your hand to the graveyard, destroy all special summon monsters in the field. Neither player can special summon. This card fits in with the theme because it's a random discard for its destruction effect. And in general, it's pretty good because it prevents your opponent from special summoning, and sometimes that can win you the game completely on its own, especially if you get it off of this card that I've been holding back on revealing, Reasoning. You can drop it down in defense mode, and then your opponent might never be able to do anything on their turn. And if you do get it off of Reasoning as well, you can just immediately activate its effect, and it will destroy itself, but it can also you end up destroying your opponent's BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, things like that. Then we have 1 copy of Sangan to search all of these low-level monsters from our deck. Of course, this kind of is anti-thematic because it ends up not being random, but you got to make some concessions to make the deck work. Then we have the best random effect in the game here, Delinquent Duo. We all know what this does. I think it's hilarious that it actually fits in with the theme because it discards at random. And then of course Graceful Pot. Then we have Mystical Space Typhoon, and we included a copy of Lightning Vortex in the deck because we do have some cards that might be hard to summon from our hand. As well, we don't have too much power in this deck, so being able to remove the opponent's monsters really helps out. Like, you might be stuck with Roulette Barrel or Time Wizard, and there's not really much you can do, so it really helps out to have ways to get rid of the opponent's monsters. And of course, we have Premature Burial, especially helpful for getting Barrel Dragon and Blowback Dragon. And then we, as I said earlier, we have Reasoning at 3. You guys should know what this does, but it fits thematically because your opponent picks a number, and there's a chance that they might pick the right number or not. Most of the time, your opponent is probably gonna pick 8, which you don't have any 8s in your deck, but they might also call 4, which most of your monsters in this deck are 4, but you're not gonna feel too bad if you end up losing them, and then you have ways to revive them if need be. But in the end, you're still taking a chance with this card, and I think it's very fun and thematic, and it actually works out pretty well. Then we have Second Coin Toss. When a coin toss is performed, you can choose to redo the coin toss. It's all the flips, and you can only use the effect of Second Coin Toss once per turn. We only include 2 of them because we don't really want to use this effect too often. Not all of our cards are related to coin flips, and as well, it is only once per turn, so you can't really abuse it in general. But it is handy to have. Then we have some standard cards called Haunted, Torrential Tribute, Mirror Force, and because we don't use Heavy Storm in this deck, we have 1 copy of Dust Tornado to take care of some back row. Then we run in this deck 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, which you guys should know what that does. Not only do you kind of need it because you have some cards that are going to remain face up on the field, like Second Coin Toss, and some cards I'll talk about in a second here, but also I think it fits thematically because, again, you're paying half your life points, which is going to be a lot, and it gets you closer and closer to loss in turn for an effect. And then we have 3 copies of Fairy Box. It's a continuous trap. When your opponent's monster declares an attack, toss a coin and call it. Call it right, the attacking monster's attack becomes 0 until the end of the battle phase. And during each of your standby phases, you can pay 500 life points or destroy this card. Remember that you can choose not to pay the 500, but then this is destroyed. Like if you're getting really low in life points, your opponent just doesn't have monsters, and you think you're going to go for game. This can really blow out opponents, especially if you have a monster in attack mode, like For instance, Jiragumo, or especially with the Sasuke Samurai number 4. Basically, you get 2 coin flips to decide if your opponent's monster is going to end up being destroyed when they attack it, and then they end up taking damage. And even if your monster's in defense mode, they're going to end up taking damage. Like if they attack Roulette Barrel, they can end up taking 2,000, and that can be devastating as well. Then we have 2 copies of Ordeal of a Traveler, another continuous trap that says when an opponent's monster declares an attack, opponent chooses 1 random card in your hand and calls the type card, monster, spell, or trap. And if they call it wrong, return the attacking monster to the hand. With this card, you want to make sure that you keep a variety of cards in your hand and don't make it obvious that maybe you have a spell or a monster in your hand. Sometimes you want to hold traps back, even if you have Sullen Judgment down, specifically to use with this effect. And a lot of times opponents don't know what this does, and they're just like, oh, whatever, and they'll just call something random and get really heavily punished for it. Sometimes it can hurt you, like if they end up reusing a monster's effect, but returning a monster to the hand again and again and again potentially can be really devastating. That's about it for this deck, but I wanted to mention, like I said at the beginning, that this deck used to run a fusion engine with Barrel Dragon and Blowback Dragon, and we used King of the Swamp and Polymerization so we can make Gatling Dragon, which was really fun, but I think it was a bit too gimmicky. Another card, if you wanted to be more random, add more luck factor, is Bait Doll, which lets you target one set spell or trap card on the field, reveal it, and force its activation. It's a trap card, and negate its effect if the time is incorrect. Let's destroy it. Then it's shuffled back into your deck after you activate this, because it's random, because your opponent's card might not work, or it might not be a trap at all, in which case it doesn't do anything. But I prefer just to run the 1 Dust Tornado instead. But if you wanted to add more luck factor, you could definitely play Bait Doll. One other card I wanted to mention that you could use, and that I did for a little while, is Light Force Sword. It's a trap that says banish 1 random card from your opponent's hand face down. During your opponent's 4th stamina phase after this card's activation, return that card to their hand. You would activate this pretty much at the start of their opponent's turn after their standby phase, and then they might get completely screwed over on what they do. And 4 of their standby phases is a long time, and unlike a lot of discard effects, this won't let them use the card from the graveyard, and they won't be able to special summon it with things like Dimension Fusion because it's removed face down. I actually had a lot of fun and luck with using this card, but sometimes it's kind of useless, and it doesn't really fit with the theme of the rest of the deck besides the fact that it's random, and it just felt kind of out of place. But anyway, that's the deck profile for you guys. Let me know what you think, and if you ever try this deck out, let me know how it does for you. Thank you very much. Take care.